very often teens can be a pain in the arse on board a ship. If you're watching this video, there's a very good chance that you found our channel because you are, like us, travelling with teens. In today's vlog, we're going to address cruising with teens and the things that we've found are really convenient to know ahead of time, and kind of some of the rules and things we put in place when we're on board the ship with our children.
Yeah, on this channel we try to give you the videos that we wish we'd seen before we traveled, and in this particular video we're going to look at the things we wish we'd known before our kids were teenagers.
And before we took them travelling on a cruise ship.
So in no particular order, here are our top 10 tips for traveling with teens on a cruise ship.
Firstly, I would say consider the itinerary. Is it stuff that's going to keep your kids interested? Are there too many sea days? We know our children are not massive fans of sea days. They enjoy a couple on a cruise, but they wouldn't want multiple days. So we know that something like transatlantic, right now at the age they are, wouldn't suit them. Also, think about the clientele that those cruise ships attract. For example, we wouldn't consider a Cunard cruise at the moment with the age the boys are, or probably Holland America for the same reason.
I was just about to say that.
However, we did find on Princess, although it wasn't really geared out with kids in mind, there's not all the water slides and fancy things like that, they had a really good teens club, and in fact our oldest son made some really, really close friends that he's still in touch with today. So sometimes the ships that you think aren't going to be ideal end up being really, really good. Alternatively, we've been on Disney cruises where they've gone to the kids club and not really made friends, and we've had them with us the entire time, which is fine, we've had a lovely time. But because it's quite separated into adult activity and into kids activities, they couldn't always go to places in the evening that we would have liked to have gone. Whereas on a cruise line like Celebrity, which at the moment fits us as a family best, there seems to be more things in the evening to do as a family, rather than teens go off to the teens club, kids go to the kids club, adults go to the adults only area. So pick your itinerary as well. You know, check out that there's places that your kids are actually going to want to go and see and explore, and think about your cruise line. What would suit you as a family?
Yeah, I think our main point is to not just rely on does it have a teens club and does the teens club look suitable, because it might not suit them. Just like if you did a mixer with adults and, you know, not everybody's going to get along brilliantly just having met on a cruise.
For us at the moment, our favourite cruise line for teens is Celebrity.
But we still are to do P&O this year?
Yeah, we haven't done P&O yet.
Or Royal Caribbean.
Or Royal Caribbean. They're two that we will be doing this year. In fact, this year we'll be doing Norwegian, Royal Caribbean and P&O. So that's
check back.
3 different cruise lines. So we'll probably be able to redo this video after that.
Okay, we're talking about teens, so we need to address the elephant in the internet, wherever we are, and that is Wi-Fi. Kids live off Wi-Fi like they live off oxygen, so they need it. It's not a want, it's a need.
And
However,
we're not saying they should have it 24/7.
Absolutely not.
But it makes a much more pleasant trip if they can have some Wi-Fi while they're away. I mean, our two
would rather have Wi-Fi than food a lot of times, and that's saying something. So here's how we work it, because Wi-Fi on ships can be extortionately expensive. So one of the things that we've done is on the days which we need internet, for instance, on our most recent Disney cruise on the Fantasy, we've got a 1-day package for the days that we needed internet. We chose sea days because very often in ports, the Wi-Fi is free in whatever country's port you're in.
Yeah, usually you can find some Wi-Fi when you're in a port. Our children are like bloodhounds sniffing out Wi-Fi, so that's not a problem.
That's right.
Or if we're in Europe, they have roaming on their phones, which we know they're lucky to have.
Your Wi-Fi package on most cruise ships will be 1 device for 1 day or for 1 allocated length of time. That does not mean this is the only device that you can use. So my phone here will be device number 1, and I'll hook up to it and I'll check my emails and do whatever I need to do. Then when I'm done, I can turn the Wi-Fi off mine and go onto one of their phones and hook them up to the Wi-Fi for an hour. And they can do their snappy chatties or whatever it is they do with each other. And then we can go to our other son and do the same. It does not mean that we're on the Wi-Fi 24 hours during that day. It just means that everybody gets a chance. And Beth obviously will check her phone. Everybody gets a chance to do it. As Beth mentioned, roaming in ports. So obviously we are in the UK, and with O2, you can have a tariff that is called Refresh. And with the Refresh, what you get is you get roaming not just in Europe, but you get roaming through most countries in the Western world.
It always works in
the US and the Caribbean and Canada and everywhere. So I will always have Wi-Fi on my 4G 5G, hopefully, on my phone, and the kids can tether to that using my data plan back home. I understand that in the States, there's less of those plans for mobile phone carriers, but you will have something, and please do look for those because it does help a great deal with Wi-Fi.
Our next category is cabin layout. Now, to be honest, most of the cruises we book are because we find a really, really good deal and it's a great price and we can't resist it and it fits in with the dates we're looking to go away. So we are not of the school of saying we will always book an interior cabin for the boys and a balcony cabin for us. However, we have booked that for the Celebrity Beyond next summer. So we'll let you know how that goes because we haven't actually done that. I imagine with teens that probably is quite an ideal way of doing it. But because ours are under 18, we have found some fantastic deals when we've had like free passengers for guests 3 and 4 or really reduced kids rates. Because of that, it's enabled us to do a suite this coming summer on the Anthem out of Southampton, which was amazing. So we kind of compromise with space and layout. A suite works for us because obviously there's more space. But if price is an issue, for example, when we go on the Norwegian Bliss, we have a club balcony suite. So the boys will be in bunk beds. It's one of those things, if they want to come to Alaska with us, and I'm sure they do, they can sleep in a bunk bed. Disney, again, they're not massive rooms, but they do have the curtain between. And we just kind of get on with it, really, don't we? I mean, I think in an ideal world, it would be 2 cabins.
One of the most important things for our 2 is that they don't share a bed. They don't want to share a bed. They spent far too many years, in their opinion, sharing a room, and they do not want to share a bed, which is absolutely fine. And your kids might be the same. If that's the case, look for one bed that is a convertible sofa and one bed
with a Pullman that comes
is
down.
a Pullman bed or a Murphy bed that comes either out of the wall or down from the ceiling. Those will be your ideal things to look for. So we've mentioned teens clubs before, but it's really, really important that first night. Those first impressions count so much for
That's when
a teen.
everyone's new and that's when they kind of all check each other out and make their friendships.
Yeah, it's a little bit like animals sniffing each other out in the park, but it is human nature and we would do it as adults. So that first night is really good to encourage your kids to go to, but not put the pressure on and say, look, you must make friends because mom and dad need time together. You just need to let them go and feel it out for themselves. Sometimes they will strike gold, as our son did on a princess ship a couple of years ago, and sometimes they will strike out.
Ours has been a real mix. Disney Magic, they had a great time. They made friends. We didn't see them till 1, 2 in the morning. The same on Princess. Celebrity, which again we've said is our favourite cruise as a family. They went on the first night. They kind of got to know people, but then they chose to spend the cruise with us.
Yeah, they found it more of a gaming centre than an actual teens club or anything social. And then
on Disney, on the Fantasy, they went again and they had a nice time. They chatted to people, but again, they weren't that bothered, so they didn't go back. So we don't put the pressure on them to go, but we do sort of say, go on the first night, see if you can make friends, because I think it's a nicer experience for them to have people that they get to know on board anyway. Saying that though, although they didn't go to the club, very often they would meet people on the beach and chat to them there. They went off on banana boat rides in Grand Cayman with some other kids that they met from the ship. So it's not always just the teens club where they meet people.
Okay, so you're not always on the cruise ship. Excursions. Now, excursions are great, especially in ports where you are limited on time or whether there is something that is quite a distance away and you're really, really want to make sure that you get back to the ship in good time.
Or if you're in a port where maybe getting public transport isn't quite as easy.
But with teens, you have to think a step beyond that. You have to think, is this going to be of any interest to them? Is this of any relevance to anything that they've studied in school or we've discussed up to that point? Is this something that will be interactive, that they will enjoy? Or are they just going to be wishing they could go on their phones the entire time? And we've had both.
And don't forget, cruise ship excursions are expensive when there's 4 of you. So that's probably a deciding factor. We very rarely do them. In all our time cruising, I think we've done 2 from the cruise ship. One to Ephesus in Turkey, which they absolutely loved because they had no clue what to expect. And one we did in Jamaica, which was a bit meh. But it was historical and a bit educational, and it was only about 3 hours, so they didn't mind.
Beth and I used to work on cruise ships, and we never had to work when the ship was in port, so we went out every opportunity we had. And in those days, we didn't have mobile. We had mobile phones, but we did not have internet on them. So we bought guidebooks, and we looked ahead, and we researched ahead, or Beth did rather. I was too new to traveling at that time to do it. But we looked ahead and we figured out what we were going to do the cheapest way possible because we were only young. And we still kind of do that today with the kids.
Yeah,
We just
I mean,
have to
for
keep them
example, on our recent Disney cruise, we did one excursion in Jamaica purely because we didn't really feel that secure going out and doing our own tour in Jamaica. We did a beach at Grand Cayman, so we kind of just did our own thing. And in Cozumel, we hired a car and we went off and kind of did our own adventure as well. But if you're going to book cruise ship excursions, I think just pick your battles, pick things that you know they're going to enjoy. And if it maybe just go for a morning rather than a whole day, unless it's obviously something fabulous like the pyramids where it is a full day tour. And then who wouldn't want to go to the pyramids? We've been lucky. I've been twice. Have you been once?
Once.
Yeah, I've been twice. Our next category is downtime. And believe me, your kids will need some downtime and you will need some time where they are just kind of zoning out, doing their own thing, playing games, whatever. It's only really been in the last couple of trips where we've realised how important this is. And our children are much more pleasant to be around if they've just had a little bit of time to themselves, maybe on their phone, but without having anything planned.
This can take many different forms, as Beth said. They can go on their phones, they can go off and do something else.
What really works for us is if they just have a little bit of time in the cabin on their own, or just the two of them, and they're not talking, which is fine for us. We'll go off and do stuff. We just leave them for an hour or so and come back, and they're just nicer to be around, to be honest.
So really, would you say that it's more a case of parents scheduling things for them to do without their kids so the kids can stay in the cabin?
I think either or. If parents want to go off and do something, sometimes we go off and do a trivia or something without them. It just gives them a bit of time to just relax and chill out, and I just think it really helps. So it's probably a really big tip I would give is to let them have some quiet time in the day.
Right, let's talk about dinner time on a cruise ship, usually in the main dining room, which is what we opt for. It's non-negotiable. We are having dinner together, even if they have friends, even if there's teen activities scheduled, or even if they've scheduled something off the cuff with people they've met. Dinner time is family time. We want to cherish the moments we have together. I sound like a Hallmark card, but it's true. And we want to keep them with us.
And talking about things that are non-negotiable, that takes us on to the rules and boundaries that we set in place when we're on board a ship with our kids. Again, I think it's a really important conversation to have before you get on, so they're aware of what they can and can't do. For example, our kids know is they're not allowed into anyone else's cabin under any circumstances. We don't allow that. And the other thing is reminding them of other passengers on board. We've all been on cruises or on land-based holidays where you've seen groups of teenagers running around and being really, really difficult.
Or preteens, or even younger.
Preteens, you know, we've seen them on the Disney cruise, kids running around up and down the corridors barefoot, knocking on all the doors. It happens, and we appreciate that in their kids. But teens generally are up a bit later in the evening. Now, we have no problem if they want to go and sit in the buffet with their mates until 1, 2 in the morning, or whenever security moves them on. And the kids' clubs are open quite late on most cruise ships.
12 o'clock, 1 in the morning.
But it gives them freedom. And one of the reasons we love cruising is it gives our kids freedom that they don't have at home. They're not going out until 1, 2 in the morning here. And they're certainly not doing that without us.
On princess ships, the teenagers can use the app and order food wherever they are. And for our oldest son, anyway, that was quite a freeing thing. It was quite a novelty, and he felt quite grown up.
But we did have rules that they weren't to misuse that. They weren't going to order a plate of chips and make the staff run all over the ship serving them. So he knew not to do that. And with just certain rules, like you don't hog the lifts, you don't go up and down in the lifts. It's not necessary. There are people that need to use them. He doesn't. He's a teenager. He's absolutely mobile. He doesn't need to be in the lifts. And just having respect for other passengers, which I think is really, really important. And I think, for example, when we went on the princess ship, this is a couple of years ago, so they were slightly younger, we got some really, I wouldn't say rude looks, but you could see some of the passengers were not keen that there were teenage boys on board.
They were looks.
We had a few looks. And ours on the whole are generally pretty well paved.
Yeah, they are.
But the reason people look is because very often teens can be a pain in the arse on board a ship. So we have very not strict rules, but we have rules that are set in stone that they can't do. They're not allowed into people's cabins, and they're not allowed to disturb other passengers, particularly later in the evening.
End of story. So we have air tags in our luggage. We even have an air tag on our pet, but we draw the line at having an air tag on our children. We're not going to track them wherever they go, but we do ask them to keep in touch with us. We'd like to know where they are on the ship as often as possible. That's really easy on Princess.
That medallion app's amazing. You
Oh.
can see exactly where they are.
And you can also send them a message on the Medallion app and say, I can see that you're in the spa or near the spa. Can you come back to the cabin?
Or why are
please?"
you in the buffet again?
Right. So that's really, really easy. A little bit harder on Disney. You can't track their movements or anything like that, but it is a good idea to keep tabs of where they are. Disney's also quite
Everyone's
good
got the app. That nearly every cruise line has an app now where you can message through the app. So if you don't have Wi-Fi and you can't message on your normal cell phone service, you can use the app. And although you have to go in and check the messages, you can communicate that way, which is what we tend to do when we're on board. So our final one is something that affects you before you travel, and that is what to pack. Leave it to a teenage boy and they're just going to throw any old rubbish into their case at the very last minute.
They don't have to be boys. I'm sure girls can do the same.
I think, well, I know I would have had all my outfits planned. So.
Well, you're perfect, but those of us who are human, maybe there are girls out there that would just throw any old thing in the case.
But I'm just thinking of things like formal nights or speciality dining. So, I mean, our boys don't go the whole hog. You know, they don't have tuxes and things like that. What we tend to do is we get some sort of chino trousers from H&M are really good, and polo shirts. We don't spend a lot on the things they wear on board ships, but we do expect them to dress up a little bit, don't we?
Yeah. And also the casual clothes that they wear in the day, obviously that depends on the climate of where you're going. We're about to go to Alaska in a few weeks on NCL, and we're looking at so many videos of what to pack at that time of year.
But it's NCL, so I'm hoping we don't really need to take anything too formal because it's a bit more freestyle. But we've not cruised Norwegian before, so we'll find out.
If you have and you know what to wear, let us know down below.
Tell us what to pack. Tell us what the teens should wear what do teenagers wear on an Alaskan cruise.
Otherwise, I'm going to dress like a lumberjack the entire cruise.
He's already started buying an excessive number of plaid shirts.
Well, two. Thank you to our local Timberland store for that.
Anyway, I hope some of that information has been helpful. If it is, drop us a comment below. If you have any rules that you put in place for teens, again, leave them in the comments box. We'd love to hear what works for you on board a ship.
Or at the very least, give this video a like and maybe even subscribe to Traveling with Teens. We're getting very close to 1,000 subscribers, dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers, which makes it feel a little bit more real, this thing that we're doing. And we hope we've helped you. We hope we've given you the video that we wished we'd had before we started cruising with teens, and we'll see you next time.